our topic was Sir T. Muthuswamy Iyer, the first judge of the Madras High Court. Last session also was on that, and I took you through the childhood days of T. Muthuswamy Iyer, how he rose from a clerk to a judge in the Madras High Court, and he was the first Indian judge of the Madras High Court, and he was conferred the title of the Companion of the Indian Empire, CIE, in 1878. He was given the title, and the cases which he had dealt with, namely the Shivaganga Zameen succession dispute and the Tirupati case. Zameen case, the expertise of Hindu law, we could see that, and it was also appreciated by the House of Lords when the judgment was took up on appeal. And the next case is the Tirupati case, where the mutt of the Tirupati mutt had collected gold coins to be kept under the Dvajastambam. That is the entrance pillar on the Dvajastambam solluvaanga. So there was a dispute raised whether the vessel contained gold coins or not, and it came up before Justice T. Muthuswamy Iyer. So he asked the people to the devotees. So the temple authorities, on the request of the devotees, to dig up the Dvajastambam and take out the vessel to find out if the gold coins are there. And it was found that there were only base materials and not the gold coins, as a result of which the case went against the Mahant. So that was the two cases which we had seen. And today we are also going to see a few interesting aspects of Justice T. Muthuswamy Iyer. After he was elevated, we are going to see what is the relationship he had with the European judges. European judges, most of the European judges were in his favor. Justice Parker, Justice Holloway, who was his mentor. Then we have Justice Charles Turner, who became the Chief Justice of the Madras High Court. And then, of course, Arthur Collins, the Chief Justice, who was instrumental in erecting the statue of Justice T. Muthuswamy Iyer after his lordship's death in 1895. So these are the things we are going to see. And to start with, we are going to start with how his relationship with the European judges. How the European judges admired his capacity for writing judgments and the clarity with which he decided the cases. The European judges whom he sat regarded him with great admiration, and dissents from his opinion was very, very rare. If Justice Muthuswamy wrote a judgment, there was no dissenting judgment, nor was there any appeal against the judgment which went against Justice Muthuswamy's judgment. Most of the cases, the appellate court admitted and dismissed the appeals which were against his judgments. So that was the relationship or the admiration he enjoyed of the British judges. In the one of the quotes which I am going to give you from a famous British author, Mr. Whiteley Stokes. Whiteley Stokes was a British author. He said, "My principal source of help has been the decision of the High Court of Madras and what was published in the Indian reports from 1862 to 1886 inclusive. The decisions which not only throw light on the ideas, but also the customs of the people of India and their standard of education as far as the normal people of the education level was very high. So that was what he learned from the judgments, especially of Sir T. Muthuswami Iyer's judgment, the caliber of people, the quality of people, the educational standards of people were highlighted in the judgments of Justice Muthuswami Iyer. Justice Muthuswami Iyer adorned the bench for over 17 years. He adorned the bench for 17 years, eliciting golden opinions from every branch of law he came in contact with, and also he attained the highest position open to a native of India in the judicial department in the country when he acted as a Chief Justice for 3 months in 1893. 1893 in 1893, the Arthur Collins went on leave for 3 months and he was made the acting Chief Justice of the Madras High Court. The other aspect is, one of the highlights is the controversial comments on the right of temple entry. அந்த காலத்திலேயே the temple entry உடைய who should enter the temple and who should not was a controversial subject even during the time of Justice T. Muthuswami Iyer. So அந்த ஒரு judgmentல, in one of the judgments, Justice Muthuswami Iyer once said, religious institutions founded, endowed and maintained for the benefit of those sections of the Hindu community who conform to the certain recognized usages as those of the caste for whose benefit the temples are by immemorial usage dedicated are places of worship. So these famous courts, even though it is open for a particular community, it is for, if it is for the benefit of everybody, then all of them should be allowed to enter the temples. So this is one of the famous quotes in the in one of the cases which he had sat, and this created a lot of sensation and opposition. So this is one of the cases which created a lot of sensation and opposition. So now coming to the man himself, Sir Muthuswami Iyer, it's very clear that he had an immense sense of clarity, propriety, and a sense of justice to which he administered for over 17 years when he sat as the judge of the Madras High Court. And one of the practical வந்து சில விஷயங்கள் என்னன்னா, Justice Muthuswami Iyer had a very simple living. So when the British advocates, especially Eardley Norton, அவரை பத்தி நான் பேச போறேன் in the next few lectures. He's one of the top English barristers. So when Eardley Norton entered practice in 1878, in fact in 1878 he came to the Madras bar from Calcutta, and he had appeared before Justice T. Muthuswami Iyer, and the Muthuswami Iyer was very appreciative of Eardley Norton, because Eardley Norton had acquired a good knowledge about the Hindu law also, because he was arguing before Justice T. Muthuswami Iyer in the original side of the High Court. அப்போ ஒரு தடவை வந்து he had to meet Justice Muthuswami Iyer in his house. So when he went, அவர் என்ன சொல்றாருன்னா, I frequently find Justice Muthuswami Iyer sitting on a floor, cross-legged, and there was a small wooden desk on which he wrote his judgments. Then what happened was, when he went to meet him, he said nothing delighted him to receive him at his house as a welcome guest, and he was very cordial and very hospitable when somebody visited his house. But in the court, no such preference was given, whether it was Eardley Norton or Raja Ram Rao or Basham Iyengar or the Honorable Mr. Patrick O'Sullivan, who was the Advocate General at that time. Everybody were treated equally and fairly, and no preference was shown irrespective of his caliber or his stature at the bar. அவருடைய famous posture எப்படின்னா, he used to sit cross-legged. cross legged தான் உட்கார்ந்து ஒரு used to hear the arguments sitting cross legged. So என்ன ஆகும்னா when he decided a case, early Norton என்ன சொன்னார்னா, when he was about to decide a case, the right toe will twitch the left, the middle toe, the next index, the next finger இருக்கு பாத்தீங்களா, the toe, அந்த ரைட் டோ வந்து அந்த நெக்ஸ்ட் ஃபிங்கரை வந்து ட்விச் பண்ணிட்டுனா, that means he has already come to a conclusion, no more arguments, அவ்வளவுதான், அதோட நின்னு போச்சு. There was no other argument and everybody stopped arguing because they know that this mannerism is the conclusive one, and the moment the right toe hits the next finger on the feet, then it means that he has come to a conclusion. So this is how the lawyers of the bar notice the mannerisms of the judges to find out at what point they have to stop. So this is one of the interesting features. And early Norton சொல்லியிருக்காரு, இந்த மாதிரி whenever I find, அவர் போய் இந்த பெண்ணை கடிச்சிட்டு கேட்டுட்டே இருப்பாரு, கால் ஆட்டிட்டு கேட்டுட்டே இருப்பாரு. The moment he has come to a conclusion, the right toe will switch over to the next finger in the feet. அவ்வளவுதான், அதோட முடிஞ்சு போச்சு கதை. That's all. There ends the matter and judgment will be dictated. Next. So this is one of the mannerisms and of Justice T. Muthuswami Iyer when he was writing, when he was deciding cases. The other thing was, the Mylapurians and the Egmorians ஒரு ரெண்டு செக்ட் இருந்தது. Mylapuriansல mostly the Brahmin community and Egmorல the non-Brahmin community. அது மாதிரி ஒரு செக்மெண்ட்ஸ் இருந்தது அந்த காலத்துல. So Muthuswami Iyer பொறுத்த மட்டும், he was neither favoring the Mylapurians nor was he favoring the Egmorians. That is Nungambakkam, அந்த ஏரியால இருக்கக்கூடிய the doyens. Most of the barristers lived in the Nungambakkam area, and the other Brahmin advocates and judges were staying in the Mylapore area. That is how it was differentiated. And as far as Muthuswami Iyer is concerned, he was equal to, he was never partial, and he was very, very equatorial. He never had any personal prejudices or preferences. Then the next one is he was not Indian ambition, the Tamil national. But next most important was, Muthuswami Iyer was a very good speaker. He had various capacities, and he was invited to speak on different occasions at different places and on a wide range of topics, such as female education, female medical aid, primary education. Then he had Hindu music, and then Malabar marriage law. He was an expert on that, and several occasions he has spoken on these subjects to various educational institutions. And one particular relevance here is views on law and legal education, and some of the portions of his speeches are given here to share his views on the said topics. And one of the most important is the convocation address he made in 1882 at the Madras University. And he was very helpful to juniors, and he took a great pain in educating the younger member of the bar, and he was also very generous when it came to giving donations to various educational institutions. So these are generally the basic or the basic traits of Lordship Justice Muthuswami Iyer. But one of the differences Mr. Justice Muthuswami Iyer had with the other members of the bar was he welcomed the British rule in India, which other members were staunchly against. He strongly believed that the British rule helped the people of India in the terms of education, in the terms of growth, in terms of civilization. He felt that the British rule was very advantageous. But this view was was opposed by the other members of the bar, namely Bashya Iyengar, Subramania Iyer, aprom V.V. Srinivas Iyengar. All these people were against the views of Justice T. Muthuswamy Iyer, and he felt that loyalty to the British throne and constitution is not only a virtue, but its abstinence is a crime. அப்படின்னு சொல்லியிருக்காரு அவரு. I desire to impress upon the members of the bar that loyalty to the British connection is the foundation on which India should be raised, sustained, and developed. Again, on another occasion, he said, there is something which makes me feel that the regeneration of India is a mission which the civilization of the West will accomplish. These are some of the statements which probably irked the young advocates who are practicing at the bar at that time. See, Subramania Iyer was also the next judge of the Madras High Court who succeeded Justice T. Muthuswamy Iyer, was vehemently against these statements of Justice T. Muthuswamy Iyer. And it was one of the reasons why he opposed raising a statue for Justice T. Muthuswamy Iyer. This portion I'll come to a little later. And why these people opposed the erection of a statue of Justice T. Muthuswamy Iyer was because of his loyalty to the British and also his allegiance to the British judges, but for whom he would not have been elevated. So these are some of the features of his career in the bar and the bench. See, in 1958, when Queen Victoria declared the famous declaration on the occasion of Her Majesty's assumption of direct control over India, Muthuswamy Iyer was a direct recipient of the beneficial effects of the declaration. In addition to his experiences from his own career, he witnessed several changes in India because of the British rule. For the conspicuous advance of his judicial career, he felt, or to quote in his own words, when I compare that South India was 40 years ago with what it is at present, and look at the various signs of progress which meet our attention all around, I cannot but feel, and I think that many of you will feel alike, that the country under the influences of liberal education and good administration has entered on a career of progress. It has made during the period very large strides on the path of progress. So he felt that the British rule was one of the factors for the advancement of India during that period with very large strides. So these were his impressions about the British rule, and quite opposite to Justice T. Muthuswamy Iyer is Bashya Iyengar, whose statue is also in the court premises. Eardley Norton, when he was sitting with Bashya Iyengar for briefing him on a matter, saw the attitude of Bashya Iyengar towards the British. So just as Justice Muthuswamy Iyer has a very benevolent attitude towards the British, Bashya Iyengar was just the opposite. He was very curt with the British. One of the instances was when Bashya Iyengar was in his house, a European client, POR and Sons, நீங்க கேள்விப்பட்டிருப்பீங்க, இந்த வாட்ச் கம்பெனி எல்லாம் இருக்கு பாத்தீங்களா, POR and Sons, அதோடைய முதலாளி ஒரு யூரோப்பியன் came to visit Bashya Iyengar in his house to handle a brief for their company. So normally when a person comes, முத்துசாமியார் என்ன பண்ணுவார்னா, எழுந்து போய் அவரை இன்வைட் பண்ணுவாங்க, வீட்டுக்குள்ள வாங்க. But Bashi Mengar, what he did was, he was sitting in his chair and he never even noticed the European who was standing. அவருக்கு சீட்டு கூட ஆஃபர் பண்ணல. He made the European stand for some time and then அவர் வந்து விஷ் பண்ணாரு, குட் ஈவினிங் சொல்லும் போது வாங்க 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 அப்படின்னு அவர் பார்க்காத மாதிரி ஒரு பாவனை. And then he said, you please sit down சொல்லிட்டு then he just said, you please leave the papers and go. அவ்வளவுதான், வேற ஒண்ணுமே கிடையாது, டிஸ்கஷனே கிடையாது. So this is the attitude of Bashi Mengar as far as the Britishers are concerned. And Srinivas Iyengar felt, was also one of the juniors of Bashi Mengar and later became a judge. He said that Muthuswamy Iyer expressed irritation at the attitude of Bashi Mengar towards the Europeans. So Muthuswamy Iyer had his own reservations of the conduct of Bashi Mengar as far as attitude towards the Britishers are concerned. Muthuswamy Iyer also held several positions during his tenure as a judge. Muthuswamy Iyer was the fellow of the Madras University and was afterwards elected as a member of the syndicate, which office he held till he died. He was the president of the Graduates Association, which was formed on April 1885 and which ceased to exist after some years. He was the vice president of the National Indian Association and also took a prominent part in the founding of the Victoria Castle and Gosha Hospital, which we all know in Triplicate. And he was the president of the Main Historical Society, which also ceased to exist after some time. And he was also a president of the Cosmopolitan Club. Cosmopolitan Club, all of you will know who are in Madras. And he was the president of the Cosmopolitan Club. In July 1891, Chief Justice Sir Arthur Collins took leave for a month and Muthuswamy Iyer was appointed to act for him. He acted as Chief Justice for a few months. That was another proud occasion. The office of the Chief Justice has not been thrown open to the Madras Presidency native till then. In the Higher Court of Calcutta, there was a precedent of the appointment of Mr. Romesh Chandra Mittal, who was also an Indian, but that was in the Calcutta High Court. But Indian High Court la vandu, he was this is the first Madras High Court la vandu, he was the first. Then he was knighted in 1892, 25th of May 1892. Justice T. Muthuswamy Iyer was knighted and he became a knight commander of the Indian Empire. KCIE, that is the abbreviation for that. Then numerous admirers, friends, and the press expatiated upon his brilliant achievements and talents, and congratulatory letters poured from all sides. But before that, there was another incident which I think we should also be aware of, which is there's another episode which also contributed to the erection of a statue of Justice T. Muthuswamy Iyer. The name of Sir Phillips Hutchins, I'm sure many of you may be aware. He was a district judge at the Madurai High Court, and it was he who established the Madurai Bar Library in 1872. Sir Philip Hutchins, a doyen, he was a district judge of Madurai, and in 1872 he established the Madurai Bar Library, and he was a district and sessions judge in Madurai. So in fact, when Sir Muthuswamy Iyer was designated to be the first Indian judge, first Indian High Court judge of Madras, not Indian High Court, High Court of Madras, the government desired that he must undergo a training session under Phillips Hutchins, who was a district judge of Madurai at that time. That was before his elevation as a judge of the Madras High Court. But subsequently, Ennachina, Muthuswami Iyer was elevated before Hutchins could be elevated as the High Court judge. So Muthuswami Iyer was a little reluctant to take up that judgeship because he felt that Hutchins was a better person to succeed than him. And of course, subsequently, Hutchins also became a judge of the Madras High Court. And they too sat in a bench also on a few occasions. And in 1883, when Sir Philip Hutchins was elevated to the High Court, his acquaintance with Muthuswami Iyer ripened into a warm friendship. And about his brother judge, he said, Sir Philip Hutchins said about Justice Muthuswami Iyer, usually two judges formed a bench, and of all my colleagues, I preferred sitting with Muthuswami. I was pressed with an anxiety to clear off the heavy arrears which had accumulated, and sometimes jumped too hastily to a conclusion. It was a great thing to have a colleague like Muthuswami beside me. He was very patient, and others might even have thought him slow. But I know that if I should seem inclined to lay down a doubtful proposition or to dismiss as untenable an argument which may have good foundation, I should be stopped by a hint of or suggestion from Muthuswami and delivered so delicately that none else would have noticed it, but quite enough for one who recognized, as I did, both his gentle, unassuming disposition and profound learning which laid behind them. He was eminently a cautious and a safe judge, but his reported judgments show that on occasions he could lay down large and broad propositions in clear, illuminating language. Naturally, his special value to the court lay in his familiar knowledge of Hindu law and customs, but he was thoroughly imbued with the principles of general jurisprudence. From his high official position, he was often compelled to make a prominent part in a social, educational, and even political meetings. So this was what Sir Philip Hutchins, who was the district judge of the Madurai High Court, had to say about Justice T. Muthuswami. Early Norton also had a few words to say regarding the disposals of the case, where he said the following. Justice Muthuswami, when he sat on the bench, there are certain mannerisms which every judge has. Muthuswami would sit with one eye shut, his head askew, with the feathered tip of his quill pen between his lips, smiling, cogitating, watching, waiting for his spring, while as his brain closed upon, grasped, and strangled some audacious propositions of law with regard to the position of bandhus, the legal status of his sister's son, or the exact inheritable virtues of Vayam Suyana. His naked toes would play with a fierce energy below, clutching and unclutching themselves as though they were seeking for the antagonist's throat. An index and a reflex of the intellectual spasms through which their owner was passing higher up. I used to watch these convulsions, and I remember with anxious dread awaiting the time for my own execution. Of one thing we were all certain. When the great toe of the judge's right foot leaned over and seized the toe adjacent to it, we all knew that further argument was over and the case lost. The judge has made up his mind. There was nothing left to do or ask for not even the costs. So this is how Early Norton tells about Justice Muthuswami Iyer when he was arguing a case. Then subsequently, Muthuswami Iyer was not keeping a good health. He fell ill in November 1894, and in early December he recovered a little. But during his illness, he had frequent delirium at nights. அதாவது தூக்கி வாரி போடுறது, இந்த மாதிரி பேசுறது, அந்த மாதிரிலாம் he developed deliriums. His state of health was at times so hopeless that newspapers had already written and kept ready their obituary notes about him. Even during the period of illness, when his son T.M. Swaminatha Iyer, who was then the district judge of Nellore, had come on leave to be by his father's side, Muthuswami Iyer urged him as soon as the period of leave has expired to go back and resume his duties. Much reluctantly, the son would leave and only to come back after a few days because Sir Muthuswami's health was very bad. After a brief recovery, Muthuswami Iyer continued to attend the court, much against the dissuasion of his friends and advisors and his family members. But at the end of December, his health began to fail again. His illness continued till 25th January 1895, the day on which the great judge breathed his last. So, Justice Muthuswami Iyer passed away on 25th January 1895. His death immersed everyone in sorrow. And Doraiswamy Iyer, who was the biographer of his book, wrote, "The mournful news ran apace, and the residents of Mylapore felt the shock to a man and hurriedly thronged to their great judge's residence, rich and poor, official and non-official alike, to have their last look at him, sobbing and weeping, signing and crying, usually the characteristics a Hindu household will have when any of its inmates died." And it was conspicuous on this occasion that a large motley crowd that soon gathered to weep for him abundantly testified to love, respect, and esteem which the public had entertained in their hearts for the departed soul. The Madras High Court and most of the courts in the official stations suspended work and closed for the day. Muthuswami Iyer had served 17 years as a judge and once acted as Chief Justice. In his entire 40 years of service, he took no more than 4.5 months as sick leave and 3.5 months as privilege leave. See the record of that man. In 17 years, he had taken only 4.5 months as sick leave and 3.5 months as privilege leave. And even those periods of absence from work were attributed to breakdown of health merely through continuous strain of intellectual work. That was the dedication of that man. 4.5 months in 17 years, nothing. See the dedication of that man. The government of Madras, noted in its Fort St. George Gazette dated 30th January 1895, had made they have made some statements. A statement: a man of blameless life and a judge of conspicuous learning, insight, and impartiality. His death will long be lamented, and his memory alike by government and by all classes of the population of the presidency of the Fort St. George. That was the official government press மாதிரி அந்த காலத்துல வந்து it's a Fort St. George Gazette. So after his death, during the reference to the great man, the Chief Justice Sir Arthur Collins from his seat on the bench said, "Mr. Advocate General," that is Spring Branson was the Advocate General, "and Mr. Raja Rama Rao, I cannot refrain from expressing our very great respect at the loss we have sustained by the death of Sir T. Muthuswami Iyer. His death is a loss to the whole country. A profound Hindu jurist a man well versed in English and law, and of exceptional strength of mind, and possessing that most usually and that most useful quality, common sense. He was undoubtedly a great judge, very unassuming in manners. He had great strength of character. His judgments were very carefully considered, and the decision he ultimately arrived at was, in the great majority of instances, upheld by the final court of appeal. His advice was often asked for by the other judges of the High Court, and I speak from experience. It was freely given and was most valuable. He was a man who did honor to the great profession of law, an upright judge who administered justice without distinction of race or creed, a well-read scholar, a gentleman in the best and the truest acceptance of the term. The High Court by his death has sustained a very heavy loss, a loss which it can ill afford. We must express our sympathy with his family, and we feel sure that his name will always be remembered as an honored and respectful judge. That was the speech given by the Chief Justice Sir Arthur Collins. Next, the Advocate General Spring Branson, who also addressed Muthuswamy Iyer only as a few days before the latter's death, said in reply to the Chief Justice's remarks, when we, advocates, attorneys of that court, learned of his death, we were not prepared to express as fully, as adequately as we ought our very great regret at his loss. I speak now for myself, as one who sat with him as a judge in the small causes court. I remember when I sat with him, I often talked to him, and not in vain, for help and guidance. His life teaches us very valuable lessons. His sterling qualities of head and heart endeared him to all those who had occasion to come before him, of whom there are very many now on the spot. There are of whom these are very many now on the spot. So these are the uh, speech which were given by the Honorable Chief Justice and the Advocate General of Madras. The next was the statue which had to be erected on his demise, and there was another story to that also. So the idea of erecting a statue was proposed in the year 1896, and it was Sir Philip Hutchins, who was the district judge of Madurai, had proposed. He was the first to propose that the statue should be erected in the name of Justice T. Muthuswamy Iyer. So he had made arrangements. Sorry, he had made arrangements, and at the request of his friends at Madras, arranged with one Mr. Wade, a very famous sculptor in London, for making the statue of his old friend and colleague, Sir T. Muthuswamy Iyer. He proposed to have the statue made of bronze, but his Indian friends insisted that the same should be made in marble, white marble. That is how the statue came to be made in white marble. So the difficulty was the sculptor had some difficulty in sculpting the statue, because the sculptor was in England, and the person about was he died in India, and so we only had some pictures of Sir Muthuswamy Iyer wearing the dhoti and the turban and the coat and the gown. So the sculptor, the sculptor could not sculpt the model of Sir Muthuswamy Iyer, could not sculpt the statue of Muthuswamy Iyer without a model with a dhoti. அங்க ஒரு லைவ் மாடல் இருந்தா தான் அந்த தோத்தியை கட்டிட்டு ஒருத்தரை பார்த்து பண்றது தான் ஈஸியா இருக்குமே தவிர, அவரோட பிக்சர்ஸ்ல இருந்து தோத்தி இதை பண்றது கொஞ்சம் கஷ்டம்னு சொல்லி he had made a request to Sir Philip Hutchins. Hutchins was the judge of the Madras High Court. ஸோ அவங்க என்ன பண்ணாங்க, அங்க ஒரு ஒரு லோக்கல் மேனுக்கு அங்க ஒரு இந்தியன் இன் லண்டன், he was called and he was made to wear a dhoti and like Muthuswami Iyer, and with him as a model the sculpting took place in London. This was one of the a few incidents which probably many will not know how the sculpture came to be made. Then the statue was sent to Madras in 1896 and was erected in Madras High Court buildings. So when the lawyers or the members of the bar pass by the statue in the High Court, they would now know that the dhoti he sees is not very similar to what Justice T. Muthuswami Iyer wore, because that was the model who had worn the dhoti was not wearing the same style as Justice T. Muthuswami Iyer. So when the central dome la ponina, at High Court central dome kadila, you will see the statue of Muthuswami Iyer. So that is how the statue came to be made. But prior to erecting the statue, there were certain dissents amongst the members of the bar that even Holloway, who was one of the greatest British judges, avarike statue illadam bodu, why should there be a statue of Justice T. Muthuswami Iyer அப்படிங்கிறது there was a big debate. So அததான் வந்து Philip Hutchins என்ன சொல்றாருன்னா, of all my friends whose memory is dear to me, there is none for whom I entertain higher esteem or warmer affection than Muthuswami Iyer. The last opportunity I had of showing my regard for him was in making arrangements in London, in England, for a statue now in the High Court. I think the whole idea, it is a good likeness, though I must admit that the otherwise noble countenance shows something too nearly akin to a smirk. I fear it is partly my fault. The original model seemed to me too austere. He was never severe or unbending, and he had a decided sense of humor. It was my unfortunate mention of this characteristic of the sculptor that produced the smirk. However, that is better than he should be thought as a austere man. So அவருடைய மூஞ்சியை பார்க்கும் பொழுது ஒரு சின்ன ஸ்மோக் மாதிரி இருக்கு, ஒரு மாதிரி ஒரு உதடு ஒரு பக்கம் இருக்கும் அந்த ஸ்டாச்சு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா. அது வந்து that is because of the description given by Sir Philip Hutchins to the sculptor and the photographs which were sent to him. But it was far better than showing him as a very austere man or a very stern looking man, because அந்த ஒரு எக்ஸ்பிரஷனே இல்லாம இருக்கும் அந்த ஸ்கல்ப் பண்ணும்போது. அதுக்கு இந்த ஸ்மோக் இஸ் a better substitute அப்படின்னு சொல்லி Sir Philip Hutchins explains that. Unusually, I mean, even though we speak very highly of Justice T. Muthuswami Iyer, there were certain members of the bar who were not very favorable to him, and they did not give their assent to the erection of the statue, and they said that it is not fair for the members of the bar to assent to the statue, even though he might have been the first Indian judge in the Madras High Court. The voices of dissent belong to Indians, not to Europeans. They belong to Indians. While the efforts were taken by, and the entire credit of seeing the plan of erecting the statue went to the Englishman. V.V. Srinivas Iyengar, in his recollections of the bench and the bar in Law Weekly in 1939, wrote about Sir Arthur Collins and said, "For one thing, however, the people of South India have to be grateful to Sir Arthur Collins. He had unbounded regard to Sir T. Muthuswami Iyer, his colleague for many years, and the senior puisne judge, who also acted as Chief Justice during this period. It was due to him and Mr. Justice Parker, who was also an associate judge of the Madras High Court, that when T. Muthuswami Iyer passed away, A very influential public meeting was held in the banqueting hall, at which it was resolved to raise a marble statue in his honor in the High Court. I happen to be personally aware of the direct personal interest which the Chief Justice took in the movement. He and Justice Parker were mainly responsible for the very large sum of money that was collected for the memorial within a few months of the death of the great Indian judge. I have reason to believe that they wrote many personal letters even to the subordinate judicial officers in the presidency. In this connection, the determination of Sir Arthur Collins to put up the statue of Sir Muthuswami Iyer should not be omitted to be contrasted with the conduct in this connection of two of the leading Indians at the time, Mr. S. Subramania Iyer and Mr. V. Bhashyamainga. I remember distinctly that when the proposition to vote a statue for Sir T. Muthuswami Iyer was moved, they were both, along with their first member of the council, I think it was Mr. Bliss, who was against it, and they left the meeting by way of protest. Whatever their personal views might have been with regard to the proper forum of the memorial, their conduct in leaving the meeting as they did not, the meeting as they did was unpardonable. The first member of the council at the time was a very imperious European, and I think it was due to his influence that these two Indian leaders objected to the statue. It would have been very graceful if they had seen their way even to subdue their personal opinion in this matter and accepted the view embodied in the proposition, which was unanimously carried at the public meeting. I also remember the occasion when the marble statue, now placed under the central dome of the High Court, having been completed and put up there, was formally opened by Sir Arthur Collins, CJ. His speech in unveiling the statue was a memorable one. The only part of the speech which I now remember is the very handsome and graceful reference by him to T. Saminatha Iyer, son of Sir T. Muthuswami Iyer, who was, I believe, at that time a district judge and was present at the unveiling ceremony. So this was how the statue of T. Muthuswami Iyer came to be erected amidst great opposition. But apart from Subramania Iyer and Bhashyamainga, there were also others who had protested against the erection of the statue of T. Muthuswami Iyer. The Sir C. Shankaran Nair was also a very respected judge of the Madras High Court. In his autobiography, has given more details about that meeting and the opposition against the proposal of erecting the statue. Bliss, a member of the government, thought that Holloway was the greatest judge, and even Holloway did not get a statue, and it was not right that Muthuswami Iyer should have one. Thus, at the public meeting, a resolution was passed to erect a memorial for Muthuswami Iyer. The exact form of the memorial was left unsettled. The amendment, so the resolution was unsettled. So it was Howell, the government leader, whose father was the great friend of Muthuswami Iyer, proposed the memorial, and at the time, when the memorial was proposed, a few members of the bar, namely Subramania Iyer, Sundara Iyer, Bhashyamainga, Krishnaswamy Iyer, who are all the devoted followers of Subramania Iyer, left the meeting. But interestingly, they all became judges of the Madras High Court subsequently in the 1920s. Then a petition was filed in the Madras High Court by Bliss, and it came before Sir Arthur Collins, and the same was dismissed with cause. That was one of the things which happened during this. So அப்பவும் இந்த மாதிரிலாம் நடந்திருக்கு. இந்த மாதிரி ஸ்டாச்சு வைக்கிறதுக்கு அப்போசிஷன் இருந்திருக்கு. It was brought before the court and the court passed orders on that. Chief Justice told Mr. Bliss that if he dare to go on appeal, he will know what to do. So better don't go on appeal. You can close this matter at this stage. So only after much turbulence, the issue regarding the statue was settled. So in the Mylapore click, in the Egmore click in பேசும்பொழுது, the opposition came from the Mylapore click, who are the brethren of Justice Muthuswamy Iyer, and not the Egmore click. That was very surprising. Further, Gandhiji wrote a short sketch on Sir T. Muthuswamy Iyer in Gujarati, in Indian opinion, on 11/11/1905, which was later translated and included as a part of the book Pen Portraits and Tributes by Gandhiji. So Gandhiji also had made a sketch of Muthuswamy Iyer in 11/11/1905. In 1932, the centenary celebrations of T. Muthuswamy Iyer was held in a grand manner in the precincts of the High Court, just in front of the beautiful marble statue of the most distinguished Indian judge. The proceedings and many tributes paid to the judge, and on that occasion, there was a separate edition released by the Law Weekly in 1932. Even much after the death of Sir T. Muthuswamy Iyer, many tributes were paid by the doyens of the bar and the bench. And in the centenary of the Madras High Court, that was in 1962, Sir C.P. Ramasamy Iyer wrote an article in the Indian Express titled Galaxy of Judges, Lawyers, Enriched Legal Tradition of Madras, and said, even after the lapse of many decades, the judgments of Muthuswamy Iyer are of vital significance, not only on matters of Hindu law and custom, but in the topics of general jurisprudence. They furnish proofs of a matchless intellect and laborious research by a faculty of rare discrimination and a gift of expressive and dignified phrasing, and evoke the envy and admiration of succeeding generations. So that was the article written by Sir C.P. Ramasamy Iyer on the great T. Muthuswamy Iyer. And with this, I think I will conclude the topic on Sir T. Muthuswamy Iyer, the great Indian judge of the Madras High Court, who started from a humble beginning and was elevated to the highest position, that is the High Court of Madras. He was confirmed the CIE and the KCIE by the Europeans, and the Europeans held him in very high esteem. And as you all know, it was the Europeans who erected the statue of Muthuswamy Iyer, and they were the pioneers in erecting the statue and not the members of the bar, as you may all come to know by now. So thank you very much. And I think with this, I'll be concluding my session of Justice T. Muthuswamy Iyer, the doyen of the Madras bench, who adorned with great nobility and clarity, which helps us even his judgments as of today. And you'll all be very surprised that most of the judgments were hardly 3 or 4 pages on some of the important subjects of Hindu law, which some of them now take at least about 60-70 pages. So that was the precision and clarity which Justice T. Muthuswamy had while writing the judgments.